Today we're going to talk about increasing student motivation through the use of reinforcement. This information is applicable to both individual students, groups of students, and classrooms. Reinforcement is one of the basic principles of behavior. In his literature in 1938, B.F. Skinner showed us that all behavior is learned. Behavior is a response to the environment. This means that if the environment were to change, behavior would change as well. Any behavior that occurs repeatedly, more than once, is serving some sort of function for the individual that's performing the behavior. For example, if a student cries every day before school and the parent keeps the student home, the student is going to continue crying in an effort to stay home from school. That behavior is serving a function for the student and meeting a need. We can change behavior through a process called shaping. When we shape behavior, we're teaching individuals acceptable alternatives that still help them get their wants and needs met in a more socially acceptable and efficient manner. One of the primary ways we teach shaping in school settings is through reinforcement. Reinforcement is used to strengthen the presence of a specific behavior. It's an addition of something pleasant or a removal of something unpleasant or aversive from the environment. Reinforcement is a teaching tool. It's also more effective than punishment in creating lasting behavior change, especially for children and adolescents. It's important to remember that reinforcement is not bribery, nor is it punishment. Reinforcement must also be intentional. We want to avoid being sporadic. Reinforcement is not meant to replace motivation. It's meant to increase it. It's also important to note that reinforcement isn't forever. When we put reinforcement strategies into place, we should already be thinking about ideas for thinning and fading as students start to master the alternative and desired behaviors. There are two types of reinforcement: positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. We want to remember that all reinforcement is positive. It's something that feels good for the individual. When we talk about positive and negative reinforcement, we're talking about the reinforcer within the environment. Positive reinforcement refers to the presentation of something preferred, something pleasant, to the environment. We're adding something to the environment to increase the likelihood of a behavior occurring. For example, a student may earn stickers for using kind words. The stickers are an addition to the environment. Another example could be praise. We, as teachers, add praise to our environments to increase certain aspects of student behavior and work. Negative reinforcement refers to the removal of something aversive or non-preferred from the environment. We're taking something away to increase the likelihood of a specific behavior. For example, a class may earn no homework or a homework-free pass for finishing their IXL, or a student may get less math facts as homework for scoring well on an assessment. So positive reinforcement is the addition of something to the environment. Negative reinforcement is the removal of something from the environment. Both feel good to the individual and are meant to have a positive effect that leads to behavior change. We want to consider the critical features of reinforcement. We always want to make sure that reinforcement is reasonable. So are the goals and expectations that we're setting appropriate for the student or the classroom based on their age and developmental level? We also want to think about small steps or alternative behaviors that lead to lasting change. If we have a student who hits when he's presented with non-preferred tasks, it might be unreasonable to say that when presented with non-preferred tasks, that student will work safely and appropriately. We'll likely need to take some small steps to teach the student how to cope with feelings of frustration or anxiety when presented with assignments that are difficult. This is going to be more appropriate than the hitting and move the student closer to to the desired behavior of safely doing work. Something else to consider is time frame. We want to think about how often the reinforcer is provided. The more frequently we're able to reinforce, the more quickly we're able to shape behavior. Lastly, we want to make sure that the reinforcer is valued by the student or the group of students. If we're reinforcing students with stickers or candy and they're interested in socializing with their friends or playing on their Chromebook, the reinforcer isn't going to motivate the student to demonstrate the desired behavior. Reinforcement and behavior are linked. Any behavior that is repeated is motivated. If there is no motivation, a behavior will not occur. Reinforcers aim to increase one's motivation to perform a desired behavior. For most people, motivation is a mix of intrinsic and extrinsic factors. However, we sometimes need to increase extrinsic motivators to build intrinsic motivation based on the individual. Students who have had a lot of academic success are usually more excited about challenging academic work or tough classes than those who have failed at academic pursuits in the past. This shows us that when someone is learning something new, they're thinking back or reflecting back, consciously or subconsciously, on their previous experiences, which links to their intrinsic motivation. If they failed or struggled in the past, their intrinsic motivation to try again is going to be much lower than someone who's experienced success in the past. There are two primary factors that impact motivation: value and expectancy. Value refers to the degree to which one values the rewards that accompany succeeding at a task. And expectancy refers to the degree to which an individual expects to be successful at a task. So we're talking about valued rewards and the expectancy that they can be successful. Value times expectancy equals motivation. If either of these values is zero, motivation is zero as well. With reinforcement, we're looking to increase value, and with the building of acceptable alternative behaviors or small steps towards shaping behavior, we're looking to increase expectancy. So we're hoping to bring both of these values up so that neither is zero in an effort to build student motivation. Most effective reinforcement plans focus on variables within the environment and instruction to change or teach. They usually refer to a specific type of behavior and use student motivation to shape expected behavior. Effective reinforcement plans spend more time promoting expected behavior than responding to unexpected behavior. This means that we're going to be more likely to teach the importance of having safe hands or working with a quiet voice than we are to teach not hitting or not working. The more we can focus on positive behavior or what we want the student to demonstrate, the more likely they will be to demonstrate that. Effective reinforcement also counts for why problem behavior is occurring and responds with that in mind. So if you think back to our first slide, all behavior serves a function. Understanding that function allows us to understand why the student is engaging in the problem behavior and teach them skills to get their needs met in more effective and socially acceptable ways. As we start to introduce reinforcers, there are a few rules we want to consider. As teachers and staff members, we want to control access to the reinforcers. This occurs for a few reasons. First, it assures consistency with regards to time frame. Secondly, it allows for a process that we call pairing. We also want to consider student voice and choice. What do students want to earn and work for? We need to analyze the strengths of particular reinforcers in the moment. We want to be givers of reinforcement and not takers. We want to reinforce frequently and reinforce new skills immediately. There are a variety of types of reinforcement delivery. Remember, reinforcement is a powerful teaching